In this Torah portion, there's lots of different things that we could focus on, to be sure. It's called kitisa. And in the very beginning, we see this census. It's a census where in ancient times and in modern times, in order to know how to protect yourself, you need to know who is part of your community. You need to know how to organize them. You need to know how many people can stand up and defend the people. And so there was this sense of counting, and everybody gave a half shekel. That half shekel was significant enough that it was meaningful for everybody. And then they would count the shekels, because you can't count a person. You know, in Jewish tradition, you can't count a person. Even for a minyan is that number of people that's supposed to gather when you are able to have a service, because some of our prayers, at least according to Jewish tradition, you need to have 10 Jewish people that are there, our tradition says. The tradition actually says 10 Jewish men. Thank you. So having these 10 people around us means, you know, it's not just that we get to say certain prayers, but I think of Kaddish and how it's hard to say Kaddish alone. It just is. I know for some of us, we might prefer to do it that way. We feel like it's a little bit safer in order to do it alone. If I'm going to hurt or break down, I don't want to do it in a synagogue. But I actually think synagogue is a good place for us to hurt and break down. Or for others, a church. They're not saying Kaddish, but wherever we go, to be able and have a place where you can feel connected to community, I think is something really significant. So the rabbis of old would come up with all of these different ways to count people. Some, instead of counting 10 for the morning minyan, would go, Ma tovu ohalecha Adonai. The first prayer would come up with the first 10 words, and that was code that you were able to start. Otherwise, they'd go outside and pull people off the street, or at least in some neighborhoods. And in ancient times, they did that too. But in the Hebrew, it's always been such a thing, it strikes me so, is because when the idiom about planning or taking a census, literally it is to raise up somebody's head. Think about that for a second. To raise up somebody's head in order to help them be counted. And I think so much in our lives, and I don't think it was that different for our ancient ancestors. I think there was always a sense of some being left out. There was always some that were going to be on the periphery. There were always some that weren't going to be heard or seen. I want to jump forward in the Torah portion to meet this grand architect. Well, the architect is God, maybe foreman at the time. His name is Bezalel. Bezalel, we often think of as this artisan. Bezalel, the son of Uri from the tribe of Judah. Now, Judah is a big tribe. It's the strong tribe. It has the most significant people in the tribe of Judah, and Bezalel is from Judah. We meet him, and it says that he is filled with the Spirit of God in wisdom, understanding, knowledge, chokhmah, tvuna, and da'at. And there's another guy that's going to be mentioned. His name is Oholiav. Oholiav. He is the son of Achisamach. I love that name. And he's from the tribe of Dan. Dan is the smallest tribe. And it's all the way up north when they finally get to the land of Israel. It's practically insignificant, some might say. Now, Bezalel and Oholiav are the ones that are tasked with making sure everybody participates in the building of this ancient tabernacle, the Mishkan. The tabernacle is going to be the tent area, and inside the innermost part is going to be where the Holy Ark is going to be, and inside the Ark is going to be those commandments, those tablets. So somebody who's prominent from Judah, and then the schlepper from Dan, are the ones that are charged with building the Mishkan. But it's not just them. Everybody participates. Everybody whose heart is so moved is going to have an opportunity to contribute something. Oholiab from the tribe of Dan and Bezalel from the tribe of Judah. Maybe it's trying to teach us that exceptional talent and divine purpose are not restricted to any one group, not to any one group of persons or any person of a particular status. In fact, there's a midrash in Tanhuma that teaches the same thing, and it articulates God's choice of artisans, Bezalel and Oholiab, God's choice in these two artisans as a message that all of Israelite society is to be involved in the construction of the tabernacle. It's a reminder that everyone has to reach out to the fringes of our community and draw people toward the center. That's what the Mishkan was supposed to do. We learn that there are lots of Oholiabs out there. It's not just this one from the tribe of Dan, but probably a lot of us have felt like Oholiab at one point or another in our lives, in our experiences. So I'm going to add another layer, and this is going to be your Hebrew lesson for the night. Think about Bezalel. Now again, Bezalel, there's lots of cool things named after him. There's this amazing Art Institute and Music Academy in Israel. You know, there's a lot of schools that are called Bezalel. Nobody's naming a school Oholiab. That annoys me. But Bezalel is this important figure. Bezalel is his name. A bet, the first sound, is a prefix. It means in. Tzel is the word for shadow. El is a term for God. So it's not just that he's gifted and he has wisdom and he has a wise heart or any of these other things. Bezalel is representing something in shadow God. So maybe he is providing an opportunity for everybody who is a reflection or refraction of God, because remember, tzel, which means shadow, might be, according to some scholars, connected to the word tselem. We don't know how to translate tselem from biblical Hebrew. It's the word we usually translate tselem is image, in the image of God. I don't think that's a great translation, because then we think of faces. But think more of attributes, quality, reflections of God, refractions of God. That I can get behind. That can mean something to me. So Bezalel perhaps is the one that is organizing the community to come to the center, because we all are these reflections, refractions of godliness, of holiness, of worth and significance. We all have something to contribute. Judaism has never been a spectator sport, never. It's not something to observe, and it's not just about belief. It's about what we do, how we live, the choices we make, how generous we're going to be. Those are the things that are going to call us. Our ancient ancestors created a system where everyone contributed to the community, not just so that they could count the numbers, but to make everybody feel like they count. And we've been trying to do a lot of work in figuring out, how do we do that here? How can we help people feel like they matter in the Jewish community, that there's purpose to our lives, and not just to our lives, but also to what we can contribute to community. We haven't figured it all out, but Lisa's working on it. She is. And so are a lot of you. But something that I want to leave you with is a new kind of a perspective for me, because you've heard me say over and over and over again that I think lots of rabbis have been told how to manage text, but not how to deal with people. And actually, that speaks a lot about lots of rabbis I know. But the thing that is so significant about what we're talking about, there is a holiness to invitation. So, and it can't only come from me. And it's not an invitation to get involved. That's great, would love it. But it's an invitation to find a Jewish voice, to make something matter, to try and find your way, and we are here to help. Aleinu